A group of curious young men wanted to explore an abandoned research station. This place used to be a military base for conducting experiments on the human body. When they entered to explore, a strange object suddenly attacked them. Since then, no one has found the group of young men. One of the group was Anthony's brother. After 30 years, he still wanted to find his brother. Thanks to the support of the investigation team, Anthony was able to get his brother's shirt back at the scene. On it appeared a layer of strange black spores stuck around the collar. As a plant expert, he quickly put the sample under a microscope to study, but soon after, the bonsai in the room began to grow abnormally and violently. Each branch of the root coiled as if merging with the spores and rushed straight towards Anthony. By the time he realized it, it had already tied Anthony's two hands. His son Devin stood outside and heard the noise. He was about to run in when a severe headache stopped him. Devin staggered outside. He wanted to call the police but couldn't press the call button. Under the sewer behind the house, the strange vines began to grow uncontrollably. They jumped up and dragged Devin down into the underground sewer. He was now tied tightly. Devin's mouth was pried open. The round mass containing the spores seemed to want to crawl into his mouth. In his panic, Devin grabbed a fallen iron bar to counterattack. Immediately after that, the tentacles gradually disappeared. At the same time, Anthony felt the vines creeping into his body. Not knowing how much time had passed, he woke up with his arm covered in tentacles. Anthony panicked and removed the bandage. He discovered that his entire arm was deformed like a parasitic root system. Anthony's arm tensed violently, as if something was about to emerge from his skin. Anthony gritted his teeth in pain. He used scissors to lightly cut the outer skin. Then Anthony pulled out a wriggling creature that made him shiver. He took a picture and sent it to Anna, an old colleague. Anna replied that this thing was not a plant but rather a parasitic animal, something that humans had not yet known about. To verify, Anthony went to the pet store to buy some white mice. When he returned, he saw that his neighbor Trey had parked his car in the wrong spot. Anthony was usually patient, but this time he lost his temper more than usual. Anthony took a shovel and smashed it straight into the neighbor's car window. After venting his anger, he returned to the basement and placed the white mouse on the bud of the creature. At first, it did not react, but after a few seconds, the bud opened and swallowed the white mouse. Not knowing the nature of the creature, Anthony decided to put it in the freezer. He planned to continue the experiment by buying more raw meat from the nearby supermarket. As soon as Anthony left the house and met his son, Devin immediately said he would be home late because he and his classmates were having a party. He was too busy to pay much attention to what his son said. But at midnight, Devin and his friend Isha sneaked into the sewer system. It turned out that he had told them about last night, but everyone thought Devin was just dreaming. The deeper they went, the more familiar the scenery became. Devin realized that this was the place where he had been wrapped up by vines. Although he felt nauseous, he still reached into the dirty black water. A vine withered in the murky water before their horrified eyes. On this side, Trey was still angry about his car being smashed in the morning. Taking advantage of the late night, he broke the glass door and sneaked straight into Anthony's basement. Despite Frankie's efforts to stop him, Trey was determined to destroy the lab. He knew that to Anthony, those creatures were more precious than his own life. Soon everything inside was turned upside down. After destroying the place, Trey also intended to take a photo as a souvenir, but suddenly, he heard a strange noise nearby. Out of curiosity, Trey approached and was dragged into the freezer by the strange creature. Not hearing her boyfriend respond, Frankie worriedly crawled down to the basement to check. She didn't see Trey anywhere, only the phone fell on the floor. Feeling that something was wrong, Frankie intended to run to the main door to escape, but suddenly a sound of broken glass rang out, making her panic. Frankie thought this was just Trey's naughty joke like every other time. Suddenly a rotten hand from behind gently placed on her shoulder. Frankie turned her head. Before her eyes, a hideous monster with a decaying shape gradually appeared. Unexpectedly, Trey, after being swallowed, had merged with that creature. He turned into a giant zombie, his body rotting like a zombie. At the same time, Devin was still in the sewer when he heard a loud scream. He immediately returned home to check the situation. Suddenly, a monster came out of his house and scared Devin unconscious. Luckily, he quickly regained consciousness and followed the black footprints left by the monster. Although Trey was deformed, he still had some consciousness and dragged Frankie to the old car repair shop. Here, Trey asked her to use a sharp knife to scrape off the rotten flesh covering his skin. At that moment, Devin also ran to the place. He and Trey had long been rivals. After being taken over by that creature, Trey's strength was far beyond that of a normal person. He only used a little force to throw Devin away. At this moment, Frankie flipped the switch, causing the car to crush Trey. Immediately after that, his body suddenly melted into a pool of sticky black liquid. But as soon as they left, the black liquid began to gather. The headlights of a nearby car suddenly turned on as if something was controlling it from within. Perhaps the parasite had chosen the sports car as its new vessel. The next morning, Alex happened to see a familiar car parked on the side of the town road. She recognized it as Trey's car and sent a text message asking to borrow it for a while. Alex and her best friend CeCe planned to drive to the afternoon tea shop, but when she stepped on the gas, the black slime stuck to the pedal. The car suddenly accelerated, scaring the cyclist in front. CeCe panicked and grabbed the steering wheel, trying to turn the car. The car crashed into an electric pole on the side of the road. In the chaos, a cloud of black powder fell into CeCe's glass of water. Having just come to her senses, CeCe angrily got out of the car. Looking at the damaged car, Alex understood that she had caused a big disaster. But just a few seconds later, the car returned to its original shape and sped away. Alex was caught up in it and panicked when she realized she could not control the car. The car just kept going straight towards the cliff by the sea. In desperation, Alex tried to open the back door and crawled back to the trunk to find a way out. Just as the car was about to plunge into the sea, Alex managed to escape. As for Anthony, he had just come out when he saw the manhole cover wide open. He remembered that this morning, Devin had told him about a dream in which he was dragged down the sewer by a vine. Feeling that something was wrong, Anthony immediately went down to check the sewer. After a while of searching, he brought a rotten vine branch to the lab. Anthony used a knife to cut open the outer shell and saw a thick black liquid flowing out. Next to it, the glass jar containing the sample suddenly shook. Anthony immediately realized that this was a sign leading to its origin. He followed the directions to an abandoned bunker. This was the place where Anthony's brother mysteriously disappeared more than 30 years ago. Suddenly, the liquid in the vial stopped vibrating. Anthony cautiously observed as he slowly entered the dark, dusty basement. At this moment, Trey, who had been parasitized and crushed under the wheels, appeared here. At this moment, he looked dazed. Trey's eyes were empty, as if he had just experienced a mental shock. At the hospital, the doctors were conducting basic tests to monitor his condition. Currently, it was only determined that he had lost consciousness due to panic, and it was unclear when Trey would regain consciousness. When no one was around, Anthony secretly took the black liquid out of his pocket, but the liquid did not react when it approached Trey. No one knew that the female doctor who had just examined him was a fake doctor. On the other side, Anthony was about to take a taxi when the bottle of liquid suddenly shook violently in his pocket. The thick black substance followed a path straight to the woman. It was the fake doctor who had just quietly disappeared from the hospital area. At the same time, CeCe was feeling lost, even though she had just won a big debate competition, but the teacher nominated someone else to go to an Ivy League university. Then CeCe went to a familiar coffee shop and ordered a cup of hot tea to wake up. No one noticed that the black powder inside the teacup was slowly dissolving into the hot water. CeCe found that today's tea tasted different, but she still drank it all without suspecting anything. A moment later, CeCe entered an office, intending to ask for a letter of recommendation from a former student of Brown University. If CeCe succeeds, have an easier time entering her dream school. But while she was presenting, a stream of black liquid suddenly flowed out of her nose. CeCe immediately felt a headache, as if someone had hit her brain hard. The scene before her eyes kept turning upside down and turned into her mother's old apartment. After vomiting a thick black mass, she remembered to call her younger brother Devin. Realizing that something was wrong, Devin immediately left school and ran to his sister's house. Meanwhile, CeCe kept rinsing her mouth to get rid of the strange taste left in her throat. But unexpectedly, the layer of mucus from earlier continued to swell. Running out of the bathroom, CeCe immediately took a lamp and stabbed it hard into the mucus. But the mucus began to spread throughout the house. Taking advantage of the opportunity when CeCe opened the door to escape, she used a stun gun to hit it. Sure enough, this mucus was very afraid of electricity. CeCe immediately rushed to the elevator, but as soon as she reached the elevator, the entire elevator shook violently. The creature had not given up yet. It followed the elevator to catch CeCe. Its weight was too great, causing the system to start malfunctioning. Just as the slime was about to flood into the cabin, Devin and Frankie arrived in time. Just as they were about to save CeCe, the elevator fell freely. The three of them quickly left the building and took the subway to find Anthony for help. The subway suddenly stopped. The system flickered, causing the entire car to shake violently. From the glass door, a mass of disgusting black slime once again appeared, chasing CeCe. It was clear that this monster was chasing her relentlessly. Not wanting to involve anyone else, CeCe ran in the opposite direction of everyone else. In the middle of the night, the train compartment became deserted. She opened the train door and jumped onto the platform, but this was the last train at the closed station, so all exits were locked. CeCe saw the high-voltage transformer station behind the tracks, and she immediately had a bold idea. When the monster was close, CeCe did not hesitate and jumped straight onto the electric rail. The slime behind quickly rushed towards her. It was immediately shocked by the high-voltage current and exploded. Elsewhere, Ishia had just delivered the goods for her mother when she saw Anthony sneezing violently. A black mass fell from his nose, followed by an eyeball rolling on the floor. Ishia was so scared that his face turned pale. He threw away the box and immediately turned around and ran out the door. Anthony saw this and looked in the mirror. He was very surprised, but he did not feel any pain. Anthony calmly picked up the eyeball and put it back. It turned out that last night he had put on protective gear and entered the abandoned basement to check further. Although many years had passed, the electricity inside was still working. Seeing this, Anthony turned on the main switch and the ground in front split open, revealing a strange circle. While he was still hesitating whether to go down or not, a pile of black molecules flew up in chaos. Anthony could only dodge and immediately turn away to leave. Anthony did not know that the recent strange behavior had attracted the attention of the children. It was not until daytime when he noticed something unusual that he realized something. The protective suit had a small tear on the left sleeve. The tear was clearly caused by the tangled wires on the main circuit board. On this side, Ishia quickly returned to the restaurant to tell the whole story. But such a strange story made everyone think he was imagining things too much. Not long after, Ishia received a call from Anthony asking about the lunch money. His voice sounded very normal, as if nothing had happened. He thought he was panicking too much, so he immediately went to Anthony's house to clarify. But he looked confused. Anthony completely did not remember calling Ishia. Immediately after that, his expression changed completely, as if he was controlled by something. In another development, Trey finally woke up after a long period of unconsciousness. Feeling guilty, Frankie took the initiative to take care of him. After the accident, Trey seemed to lose his arrogance. He became quieter and gentler. However, Trey's memory stopped right when he entered Anthony's basement that day. To clarify the matter of the monster possessing the body, Frankie called Devin to invite him to go back to check. At the same time, Ishia was tied tightly to a chair in the basement. Anthony kept emphasizing that it was not time for anyone to discover him yet. This made Ishia start to doubt everything about life and people. However, he seemed to still retain some consciousness. Immediately after that, Anthony suddenly vomited a mass of thick black liquid. It seemed that he wanted to turn Ishia into his kind. Because Ishia was so scared, he struggled violently and accidentally bent one of Anthony's right fingers. The strange thing was that he didn't feel any pain, and he even laughed at how fragile his body was. At that moment, a knock sounded on the door. Anthony covered Ishia's mouth and hurried upstairs. It turned out that policewoman Jen had appeared again, holding an old videotape wrapped in a leather bag. Officer Jen said that the tape was related to Anthony's brother's disappearance 30 years ago. However, he was possessed by a parasite, so he immediately tried to chase her out. When he returned to the basement, Anthony saw that Ishia had completely disappeared. Before he could react, he suddenly rushed from a corner of the wall. But Anthony was no longer an ordinary person, so his reflexes were very fast. He grabbed his ankle tightly, and Anthony's mouth kept whispering apologies. He still held Ishia tightly, and black mucus began to flow from his mouth. In that critical moment, Devin managed to hit Anthony on the head with a stick. The head fell off, but he still groaned and called the children to join the monster group like him. The children ran upstairs in panic. They clearly understood that the creature was no longer Devin's father. Just like Trey was also possessed by that creature and revived, now Anthony was possessed. Just as everyone was wondering, Ishia suddenly saw the videotape lying on the table. He immediately took it and observed. Because in the basement, Ishia had heard the conversation between Anthony and policewoman Jen. Obviously, the tape was the only key to exposing the truth behind. Down in the basement, a mysterious woman suddenly appeared. It was the person who pretended to be a doctor at the hospital. She stuffed Anthony's head into a backpack and calmly left. Soon after, the woman's car arrived at a secret laboratory. Anthony woke up to find his body being disassembled into pieces. The woman said that in the shelter, there was a creature that could cause the end of the world for humanity. 30 years ago, Anthony's brother accidentally unsealed that creature. Unexpectedly, this time he released it again, and Anthony was also poisoned. The only way now was to use extremely high temperatures to turn Anthony back into liquid form. In another development, the group finally watched the old video. As the image appeared, the secret of more than 30 years ago gradually came to light. Anthony has been passionate about botanical research since he was a child. His older brother Maddie loved adventure. Jen was Maddie's childhood friend, and she was even his ex-lover. Jen later became a police officer, but her past was rebellious and arrogant. When Maddie met Isabella at school, Jen was angry and jealous, so she sought revenge. She once stole Isabella's clothes from the locker room to humiliate her. After that, Maddie ended his relationship with Jen. Maddie invited a few friends to explore the abandoned bunker called Nightmare on the weekend. That place used to be a military base that conducted experiments on human bodies. When abandoned, this place became the center of many rumors about ghosts. But because Maddie did not invite Jen, she was angry. Jen snatched the camera and cursed the group to disappear there. Anthony always had a bad feeling, so he stopped Maddie, but he still carried out the plan. Because he was worried, Anthony secretly followed his brother. However, when Maddie found out, he asked Anthony to leave the area. Immediately after that, the equipment in the basement suddenly flashed continuously, as if something was unusual. A large door opened to reveal a deep passage that attracted the group. Suddenly, a strange smoke flew straight into Maddie's face. Immediately after that, Maddie's face began to distort, causing the rest to panic. It was unclear how long it took Isabella to wake up, but her friends had completely disappeared. There was a thick layer of slime under her feet. When Isabella picked up the camera again, she saw Maddie and his friends covered in a mass of black objects. Suddenly, a creepy sound rang in her ears. From the darkness, a black monster crawled out as if looking for prey. Isabella ran away in terror, but the monster still chased her and dragged her into the hole. Not long after, a woman in protective gear appeared and quickly closed the hole. Then she discovered the camera lying on the floor. Just as she was about to destroy it, there were footsteps, so the woman had to leave. It turned out that Anthony and Jen had arrived at the scene, but no one from Maddie's group was left. He immediately called the police to report the disappearance. However, Jen was the first to discover the camera left on the ground. Fearing that the disappearance would involve her, she quickly reported it as a robbery. The videotape was also hidden by Jen for many years. Back in the present, Trey spoke up and said that he had been locked in a black object like Maddie. Perhaps that was why Anthony found Trey in the basement. After returning, Devin and CeCe searched the house but could not find their father anywhere. They immediately checked the security camera placed in front of the door to find clues about the disappearance. After a while of searching, they discovered a woman sneaking into the house. Ishia immediately recognized that it was the person who had pretended to be a doctor who had taken care of Trey. Moreover, that woman also had many similarities to the woman wearing protective clothing in the video. In the research room, where Anthony's body had melted into a black liquid that flowed into the sewer, but then he suddenly appeared in the basement of his own house. When Anthony was about to leave, a transparent wall blocked the way ahead. He tried to hit it with force several times, but all his efforts were in vain. Anthony grabbed a fire extinguisher and threw it hard at the wall to break the invisible seal. It turned out that Anthony's entire body was sealed in a strange black mass, with no way out. As for Devin's group, they planned to follow the trail of the woman who took her father away. Because she had pretended to be a doctor to approach Trey, the group decided to go to the hospital to find clues. Fortunately, Frankie's mother was a nurse, so they asked for access to the camera. Finally, the woman's face appeared clearly on the surveillance screen. The image showed her leaving the hospital in her own car, and the license plate was also recorded. Trey has a good relationship with the police, so he quickly found out the identity of the car owner. Her name is Norah. She currently lives in the suburbs of the city. The group arrived and broke the lock to get inside. Inside was a biological laboratory. Devin found his father's familiar shirt thrown in a dirty trash can. It was clear that Anthony was in serious danger at this place before completely disappearing. At this time, Frankie called everyone closer when he saw CeCe holding an old diary. The notebook revealed the true identity of that mysterious creature and shocking secrets. Back in 1969, a group of students were being led on a tour. Suddenly, a giant meteorite fell from the sky. Out of curiosity, the guide bent down to observe, but unexpectedly something strange pulled him down. Soon after, a team was sent to investigate the strange incident. The team included Norah when she was young, and her father also joined. After the capsule opened, the group followed the corridor leading to the secret underground area. Before their eyes was an alien creature that looked like a strange spaceship. At that time, no one knew anything about it, only realizing that this creature seemed very aggressive. It had the ability to attack all living creatures. After half a year of research, the group of scientists gradually understood the nature of this creature. Every time the creature approached, it would secrete a substance that attracted the victim. Then, the creature decomposed its prey into a strange, thick black liquid. The black substance quickly formed a cocoon and swallowed the entire prey. From a series of experiments, the research team successfully created a special vaccine. If the captive creature is vaccinated, it will recover and return to its original state. However, Norah begins to have serious conflicts with her biological father. She believes that the mission is to observe and control the creature creature, not to destroy it. But Norah's father had been ordered to destroy the alien, and the vaccine was actually a biological weapon to destroy the mysterious creature. Unable to stop her father, Norah sought out her colleagues for support. Although her arguments were not convincing, she still made them withdraw from the mission. Forced into a situation where she was alone, Norah's father had to put on protective gear and enter the laboratory. He pressed the button to activate the system, then injected 2 vials of vaccine into the alien. Not long after, the creature's black skin gradually turned into a frozen state. Thinking that the creature had been destroyed, everyone began to withdraw from the laboratory. However, no one noticed that the man imprisoned in the glass cage was gradually changing. He quietly walked to the control panel and stopped the vaccination system midway. Immediately, the alien began to recover at a terrifying rate. When the alarm sounded in the underground research room, Norah woke up with a start. Her father gave her a protective suit and they ran away. On the way to escape, they encountered a colleague who had been parasitized by the creature. Without saying a word, the man immediately rushed forward and attacked Norah's father. The two immediately struggled fiercely. Luckily, her father grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher and hit the attacker hard on the head. The man fell to the ground, while Norah was still unconscious after the horrific incident. At this time, the alien creature lost control and took the initiative to attack. It seemed to want revenge on humans. Norah and her father dodged and ran away. Finally, they reached the exit leading outside the abandoned military base. When Norah crawled out of the door, she found that her father did not want to go out. It turned out that he had been parasitized by a creature because his helmet had broken during the battle. Since that incident, Norah has kept her father's story a secret. After many years of research, she improved the vaccine formula that her father left behind. Based on the characteristics of the creature, the parasitized person will liquefy and then return to it. CeCe begged Norah to save her father. Perhaps in the image of this girl, Norah saw herself when she was young. Finally, she decided to help. Not long after, the group reached the underground shelter from the past. To avoid being controlled by the alien, Norah injected each person with a vaccine. However, the effect of the vaccine only lasted for an hour. After preparing, she opened the hatch, and everyone went down one by one. The hatch door naturally closed. At this moment, CeCe's father was captured by the creature and sealed in a black cage. She immediately took out the vaccine vial that Norah had given her and injected it into his body. The black slime began to solidify and then disintegrate. After a few seconds of suspense, the creature noticed that its prey was starting to slip out of control. It immediately swung its black and hard tentacles to attack the entire group of people in front. Fortunately, in the critical moment, everyone managed to run into the isolation room. This was the place where Norah and her father had conducted research on this creature in the past. Anthony also woke up at this time. He was surprised to see his brother and his childhood friends. The strange thing was that they still kept their youthful appearance, like when they were teenagers. Norah only had one last dose of vaccine left and had used it before. Trey recalled his experience repairing cars. If the system failed, he could use a short circuit to start it. Based on that suggestion, the group quickly searched for the lab's electrical diagram. They identified the location of the central electrical cabinet and divided the tasks clearly. Then, Anthony put on protective gear. He secretly reconnected 2 uninjected vaccine bottles from 35 years ago. He intended to inject another shot to put the alien into a deep sleep, but as soon as the needle entered the monster's body, it repelled him and ruined his plan. Even so, Anthony did not give up, and the monster also fell into a state of hibernation. Trey took the opportunity to insert a screwdriver into the transformer box to restart the system. Anthony told everyone to go first because the pipe was broken. He could only connect the injection pipe by hand. The group heard this and quickly climbed out of the lab. CeCe stood on the mouth of the pipe, calling out her father's name in panic. When the door was about to close, Anthony ran out of the hole in time. During the escape, Anthony managed to save his brother while the creature was being suppressed by the drug. But unexpectedly, Jen also came here to find her daughter's whereabouts. After 35 years of not seeing each other, the feelings between Anthony and Maddie were still the same. However, as a police officer, Jen understood that this situation would cause trouble. The appearance of 4 people who had been confirmed dead would cause the military to intervene. They may be subjected to experiments to extract secrets about alien life. So Jen and Anthony decided to go to Norah's lab to find out. Unexpectedly, Norah used the children to attract the attention of the creature. She secretly rescued her father, who was sealed in the creature's cage. When the vaccine started to take effect, the father who had been sleeping suddenly woke up. He suddenly became emotional, admitting that he was not worth saving because it was too late. Immediately after that, the father knelt down and spat out liquid from his mouth. The black liquid immediately covered his body and quickly turned him into a mutated monster. It turned out that when sealed in a black barrel, the body would gradually change. They eventually became the same kind, and the puppet was completely controlled by the monster. The three were chased everywhere by the creature, but luckily they escaped thanks to the vaccine. Anthony began to worry that Maddie might have turned into a monster like that. Meanwhile, CeCe was holding an old photo and was about to share it with Alex. Unexpectedly, a ferocious monster suddenly appeared and was approaching. The two of them screamed in panic and rushed out of the room to find a way to escape. At that moment, they bumped into Devin and Frankie, who were running away. Soon the group was surrounded by monsters. When Anthony returned home, all that was left were the children's clothes. The two immediately got in the car and headed to Nameland to search for traces of their children. It turned out that when he was locked in the black box, he had connected his consciousness with the creature. Anthony understood that the creature was just defending itself and was eager to leave Earth. On the way to the shelter, a monster suddenly appeared blocking their way, but they were all defeated by Jen and Anthony with the vaccine. Anthony and Jen then reached the prison and broke the chains to save the children. Suddenly, another monster rushed in, but Jen reacted quickly and defeated it. However, that was also the last dose of the vaccine. As soon as another monster appeared, Anthony and Jen quickly ran away and locked the large door. But he knew that thing could not hold on for long. Anthony quickly ran to the control panel to activate the mechanism to open the secret passage. Because he had seen the diagram of the shelter, he knew how to reopen the shelter. A giant gate opened up and the alien immediately sensed the danger. It immediately extracted all the parasites from the children's bodies. But at that moment, the last monster suddenly appeared right behind Anthony. But that creature was also sucked into the mother creature and flew straight into space. In a hazy moment, Anthony saw the image of his brother saying his final goodbye. Maddie and his childhood friends had become part of the alien creature. Now they would join it in starting the journey from Earth to a new space. Very soon after that, Anthony's family life finally returned to normal. However, he decided to leave this place that had once contained so much pain. After everyone said goodbye, Trey suddenly felt very uncomfortable. A mass of liquid was sprayed from his mouth again. Was this a warning sign of a new disaster coming? The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you again.